Alrighty folks, welcome back to the channel and welcome to the first of probably a few pheasant related videos this season. Rod's got a peg at the local syndicate again and I like to tag along to work the dogs, but mostly I go for the craic, because if it's anything, our local shoot sure is good craic, and I'm quite partial to pork for breakfast. But anyway, this was our first shoot of the season and I reckon this video is going to be short and sweet because not much happened. But it was a broad day out nonetheless.
Darren?
That's it, 14. I mean, this thing last year.
14. Charlie?
24 please, have you got one?
24 please, we'll got 24. No, we haven't. No, we haven't, you're right.
Come on, wee. I'm trying not to film the inside of your car because it's mocky.
Oh God, like what tangle? I tried to find my game bag this morning, but I couldn't find it.
Oh.
It's quite nice when you're walking and you can put the pheasants in there. Keep them out your way.
What peg number were you?
4. Which for the top wood might be alright. That might be at the back top corner. I cannot think which way around it's pegged. It'll either be at the back top corner or it'll be on the front. Feeling like, because they'll do 3 bloody drives, won't they, when they're coming back, so a few extra in case.
I know that in last season's video I said something along the lines of, oh, I'm going to spend the summer working on bucks retrieve. Yeah, that didn't really happen. We had a couple of sessions earlier in the year, but honestly I spent my summer either working or fishing. So there was no telling how well he'd behaved today. And as for Rod's pup Todd, well, he's just a wee babby. He only came out to a couple of days last year, so this is all still very new to him. There were quite a few birds in the first drive, but like all shoots on the first day of the season, the birds didn't fly very well. Rod got one of decent height, but the rest were all too low to have a crack at. It fell on the opposite side of the fence and Lady Luna got a good retrieve. The first day of most shoots is really about giving the birds a good scare so that the next time they'll fly better. These lot are of course young birds. The majority of them have never been shot at before, and many opted to flee on foot rather than flush. Up. Good boy. Whoa, Luna! Come here, Jesus! Come. Nothing feathered came out of the second drive. We flushed a hare behind us, but the dogs didn't even notice it. But the drive itself was a good exercise in sitting still for the young Labradors. Or at least it could have been. Later in the year, this particular drive seems to hold woodcock and snipe quite well. This day was filmed late in October, and I am currently editing it in the first week of November. Just this week, I have started to see a lot more woodcock at night, so by the time the next shoot rolls round, there should hopefully be some in the drives. A handful of birds came out of the third drive, but with the direction of the wind, they just hugged the tree edge and dropped back in. She was blowing a wee bit of a hoolie, so not the most ideal conditions for the birds to fly in. But hey, at least it wasn't raining. Nothing really happened in the fourth drive. Now, both of these dogs are KC Labradors, believe it or not. Buck has the jowls of a hound dog, and Todd looks like a pit bull with that big square head. But they work the deer, and they're good boys, so it really doesn't matter. Gentle. Gentle. Ow. Sit. Sit. Gentle. Gentle. After lunch on the fifth drive, Rod missed a pheasant twice, and even though it wasn't a hit, Buck decided to be a wee brat and try and beat Luna to it. Buck! Come here! He'd been good up until this point, but I think the disappointment and boredom had overcome him. Todd, on the other hand, didn't seem particularly sold on this pheasant shooting business. He seemed happy to be included though. As you can see from his logs, the wind had fairly picked up by this point in the day. This drive produced a lot of birds, but due to the wind and their inexperience, none particularly flew well, and a lot trickled out on foot at the edge of the pen. There were a few shot in this drive, however, which is a good job, because at lunch the bag was only 2. My guess of 24 on the sweep was starting to feel a bit too ambitious. There was also a roebuck flushed during this drive. He tore up through the line of guns and away across the hill. It was a shame to startle him, but personally, I really like to see deer run. When I'm not out to get them, of course. They're such powerful, sure-footed wee beasts, and watching them clear ditches so effortlessly is pretty impressive. The sixth drive produced a lot of birds, but no high flyers. We ended up spending a bit of time recovering a couple of prick birds here, and the dogs finally got a chance to work. The seventh drive produced a few, but they all looped round and back into the wood on the wind. If there had been a gun stood on the far corner, he probably would have gotten some decent shooting, but alas, there was no one there, and the birds lived to fly another day. The final drive didn't produce much, but the dogs looked pretty in the bracken, so silver lining. In the end, the total bag was 10. Not exactly a bountiful day, but one of the great things about small shoots like this one is that all the birds are taken home by the guns and beaters to be eaten. Despite the bag being small and shot opportunities being scarce, the day stayed dry, the dogs enjoyed themselves, and so did we, and that's what it's all about. As I said in my last video about pheasants, there's a lot of hatred levied at the sport of shooting, and there's negative stereotypes associated with it, one of which being exclusivity, and that is something that stains all forms of field sports and hunting here in the UK. And I'm not standing here and saying that exclusivity isn't a problem. It sure is. But there are avenues to combat that, and syndicates are one of them. They are essentially community enterprises that require teamwork and cooperation in order to exist, and grant everyday working folk access to hunting and field sports that is otherwise difficult or expensive to acquire here in the UK. I really like small community-run shoots. I think they ought to be celebrated more. Whether it be pheasants, wildfowling or a rough shoot, anything that gives local people access to field sports and game for the table is a damn good thing in my book.